Welcome back to Last Play. Okay, it was way too hard to start the timer on that one while running from the scenes. Okay. Oh boy.
I'm dodging their attacks with my jumps. I'm not. I died.
Okay, running away. Oh boy.
It didn't help at all.
Yeah. Like, the way that hit tracking works in this game, you can't, like, run in circles. You have to actually, like... Ooh, Masterful Club of Disruption. Good, we can both have clubs of disruption. You can take this one because I have enough strength for my one club to be useful. Because, yeah, this basically means that on critical hits, you just completely wipe them.
Nice. I like wiping things.
So, welcome to DM advice here on Last Play.
DM advice.
What's your favorite part to create as a DM?
Part?
Part of the universe.
Favorite part of the universe? I really have a soft spot for religions.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that you definitely have a lot more religion in yours, because religion is, like, the one thing I don't like to design. Mm-hmm. Like my last campaign, where every single church was a Church of Helm.
Yeah,
because it was the one deity that I knew decently enough about. It's just ironically that Helm is the deity of watching and not really doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
Helm sees all and just kind of lets it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when Helm says he'll watch your kids, it doesn't mean he'll stop them.
Yeah, it doesn't mean
doing anything dangerous.
It's like, oh yeah, I watched the kid. He grabbed the fork, moved towards the electric socket, and just kind of stabbed it in there. I watched the whole thing.
Yep, was electrocuted for exactly 5.7 seconds before collapsing into a heap of, burning ash.
It's like, yep, Helm explained. And so,
is there anything else in this room, you think?
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I really like all the religions. I like kind of the pantheism that a lot of D&D and Pathfinder worlds have, where there are all these different gods that are actively doing things in the world.
Some of them good, some of them bad, some of them lazy.
Mm-hmm. And and then how the different churches affect society in different ways. Because, for example, Pathfinder has the god Abadar, who is the god of law, commerce,
the banking god.
Yeah, and civilization. He's the banking god. Lawful neutral, and believes that the best thing to do is civilization, and that civilization should be cultivated and improved. The map is big.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where we need to go.
Okay. I feel like you see the catacombs upwards to the right. I don't think we finished.
Yeah, we I think we have to do this vase puzzle.
Is there a door at the end, do you think?
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, keep going about Abadar.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that the Church of Abadar is also basically runs a lot of the banks and gives loans and is in charge of trade in most cities.
Hold on, isn't the obvious solution for this gold, silver, and bronze?
That is pretty obvious. There's also the last thing we haven't done, I think. Is that silver? Silver's blue, right?
No, maybe the gold has to go on the right here then. Bronze, silver to gold.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep. It was the most obvious solution.
Dang it.
Here on Last Play, we're good at solving puzzles.
Only complicated ones, though.
So yeah, Abadar?
Yeah, Abadar. And I find that really interesting. I find it really interesting that Pharasma, goddess of life, death, and prophecy, and fate, has their clerics are midwives and also are in charge of funerals, usually.
Okay. Makes sense. Like, bring people into them, take them out of it.
Yeah.
There's a zombie.
I find that really interesting.
There's a half zombie that gnawed me to death. Gnawed on my ankles till I died.
Well, it's okay. Why don't they go back to these books? They're pretty great.
They're not PCs. They don't have the save load function that we do.
Oh, geez, that just popped out of the tiling.
Yep. Gross.
Gross. That poor tiling?
Yeah, what did it ever do? So yeah, the one thing that I enjoy most about DMing is making characters, because as a DM you have to make so many more characters than you do as a player, which is one. And so like I often like make interesting characters and have like quest characters. Like my most recent campaign was a campaign to like, there's a huge tournament because the king had no heirs and wanted to like find a person to inherit the kingdom. And so I made like a whole bunch of characters to be like the competitors in this tournament. And all of them would like had like interesting backstories and like goals and stuff, and they would often interact, and it was really fun like making them appear and having them do stuff and then showing up and being like, hey, what's going on? And was able to pull off the most obvious of all twists. The king was one of the contestants.
I died. Yeah, that was I didn't see that coming.
Which I felt was super obvious because the king was a dwarf and
we had a dwarf.
The other contestant was the only other dwarf in the universe.
Yep.
And what happened was like halfway through they started looking for like rumors of stuff was going on. I'm like, oh, apparently no one's seen the king since he announced the contest.
Yeah, and we were like, gee, I wonder.
Let's see. Maybe the king's in danger, or maybe the king's dead. Let's try and find out what happened to the king. And it's like, okay, they never really followed that through because they might have actually figured it out that way. So they just waited until the very end with like their good old pal Orforge that they all liked was like took the stage, was like, yep, I was the king the whole time, and they're like, what?
Yep, we beat him in chess.
Yep, that was actually fun. Playing chess where you had to roll angel rolls to see if the pieces would actually follow the instructions you gave them. Haha. Because yeah, that's the other thing I like about DMing is that like designing set pieces that are not 100% inside the normal D&D rule set. Like the one time I did like similar, like that was basically the last competition where each contestant was tasked with designing a test for the other contestants, and then like something to show off like your abilities and seeing which of the contestants had like the most well-rounded skill set. And so like they as a party had so much trouble figuring out what their contestant was good at, because for reasons that is another story in and of itself. But that also meant that I had to design like every single other contestant's challenges. And it was a lot of fun because for one of them I did like a Fire Emblem type thing where they're all controlling like an army to try and capture an objective. And he was working on like different rules where they had like to roll for like their army units, and it was fascinating. There's one who was just like summoned a Death Knight, and it was just like free for all, who can kill the Death Knight?
It was us.
It was everyone, but they also they did a lot towards it.
We did so much.
And then one who had like I designed like this trap-filled labyrinth that you had to like navigate to collect some keys that were scattered, and while everyone was like racing to do it, and so. They actually, it's kind of unlucky that like they had to collect keys in order to get to like the final room, and they knew this. But the first way they went directly towards the final objective when they hadn't actually found the keys they needed. And so they like braved all of the traps like before that final objective, like ignored the sign that was like, do not continue unless you found all of the keys. They're like, that might be a lie. That might be a lie. And they went for it anyways. And then they're like slow, and then they like were rushing and ended up failing in one of the things and being eliminated from the contest. And the thing that they designed was, this is a long story.
That one is a long story.
But early on in the campaign, they had stopped a kobold invasion that had found an ancient staff that was buried in a cellar somewhere in a city. And they had killed the kobold and like taken the staff and didn't really know what it did. They tried to identify it, but like only had a half success. So they figured out that it was that there was a staff that had a spell inside of it, and that spell could be unleashed. But they were like, we have no idea what spell this is. It could be really dangerous. So they went out to the middle of like a marsh, abandoned like cursed marsh. I called the Umbral Marsh. And they're like, okay, we're far from civilization. Nothing bad could happen. Let's unleash the spell inside this staff. And so I'm like, okay, you see a vision of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and they're telling you to choose one of them. And then the player who did that was like, oh boy. And so it's like, do I choose war, pestilence, famine, or death? And they're like, all of those sound bad, so I'm going to choose death. And then everyone's like, why would you choose death? It's like, oh, I thought maybe I would just die. And I'm like, it's not that simple. And so basically, everywhere in a mile radius, the dead were coming to life. And he was in the middle of a marsh. So, like, there was a swamp nearby, which, like, had a giant undead, like, shark that just came to life. And, like, all of the wildlife in there was just coming back to life. So it was... He made the cursed marsh live true to its name by having the dead just come to life in it. And so this undead shark they knew about, and so they tried to fight. They failed. They managed to lure to the surface, but it's a giant undead shark, and it started just wrecking them, so they ran away. But the shark was now out of the water. And it stayed out of the water and just started flopping around throughout the marsh, and eventually made its way out of the marsh. And they saw signs of it, like, on the side of the road, and were like, oh, the undead land shark is now free. And it started, like, roaming the land, like, causing havoc, because it's a giant undead land shark that was very difficult to defeat. And so for their competition, they captured the undead land shark, and oh, there's the Morningstar Disruption. This is one of the best weapons in the game.
Yeah, you want it.
Oh, maybe Dex is for ranged attack. Oh, hey. So they captured the undead land shark, and designed this giant arena with the idea that they had fed the land shark these like items, and there's like the first person to like find these items from the land shark and bring them to the center would win the competition. And it was actually really fun because they just kind of got to control the land shark while I controlled all the NPCs trying to like cut open their land shark. And so I really like putting non-traditional like set pieces into campaigns like that, where they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, but not in the traditional I stab it with my sword kind of way.
Yeah. I do find social encounters to be funner and more memorable than combat encounters a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because combat encounters are only really memorable if something strange happens. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about strange things that just happened in combat next time on Last Play. Ooh, carrying too much. Time to start shooting some arrows.
Ooh.